Hey guys, and welcome back to the full-time travel planning series. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about 20 different safety tips that you can use while you're traveling around the world. So guys, in this video, we're going to be talking about 20 different safety tips that are going to be super helpful for you when you're traveling around the world. A lot of these I wish I would have known earlier on, and it would have saved me from a lot of different issues I've ran into. So I put together the 20 most important things that I think will absolutely help you, and will just be good tips overall, no matter where you go, even if you're in a dangerous area of town back in your own hometown. So guys, I just want to mention that these tips are not in any specific order of best to worst. They're just kind of how I basically put them in the script here. So let's jump right in. So the first tip is do not carry too much cash on you. And what I mean by that is, the thing about cash is when you lose cash, there's really no way to ever get it back. I'm not too familiar with any sort of insurance programs where if you get a bunch of cash stolen, you get it back, at least when you're traveling the world. I'm sure there's some sort of insurance somewhere, but for the most part, when you lose cash or your cash gets stolen, you usually never get it back. That's why I try and make all of my purchases with credit cards, and then I pay that credit card off in full. One, because it's safer that way, and then two, because I'm getting credit card points. Now, I can't tell you an exact amount of money on how much you should carry with you. That's really up to you, and it's up to your expenses and how you travel. But what I can tell you is it's important to always have some emergency cash. And having some emergency cash is going to be really helpful for many, many different reasons. If you ever come into a bind where it's cash only, if your card's not working for whatever reason, if your card gets stolen, obviously the list goes on. Having cash is a very safe bet. Now, when it comes to the amount of cash you should carry on you, it brings me into my second tip, which is not having all of your cash in one place. Not putting all of your cash right here in your pocket, and actually splitting it up between a few different locations. My rule of thumb when I take money out of the ATM is that I'm going to divide it amongst my backpack, my suitcase, and also my pockets. And that way, if one of those items gets stolen, then I'll be able to at least still have some of that cash. Building on to not having all of your money in one place, my third tip here is to also take that same strategy and make copies of your documents and then put them in a few different places. So what I mean by that is you're going to want a copy of your passport, you're going to maybe want a copy of your visas, you're going to want a copy of whatever other important documents you might have, maybe an extra credit card, debit card. And then so what I do is I take those documents, each one of them, I put those documents into an envelope, and then I create a couple different envelopes, and that way I can put one in my backpack and one in my suitcase. Alright, and leading into tip number 4, speaking of suitcases, my fourth tip is to tag your luggage. In reality, the world is growing, and I can't say the suitcase diversification is growing that much. What I mean by that is a lot of people have the same bags. So how do you avoid having your bag accidentally picked up or stolen? Well, my tip is to go ahead and tag it very clearly. I actually usually tag my bags in two ways. One of them I'll tag that makes a little bit of extra noise. So I have one luggage tag that is always just chiming around. So if I can't see my bag, I can at least hear it when it's, getting shuffled around. And the second one I just have as a backup to make sure that if somehow my luggage tag gets ripped off in the carousel, which it's happened multiple times, that way I'll still have another bag tag on my bag, so I can hope that if I did lose my bag and one of the luggage tags came off, then I would at least still be able to recover my suitcase. Another great way is to just put some sort of neon piece of tape or wristband around the handle of the suitcase. I've seen people do a few different things that just really make it clear that it's their suitcase, and it reduces the chance. Additionally, if someone happened to try and steal your suitcase, it's going to be much easier for you to spot that person for who stole it, because you're going to recognize that marking and the bag they're rolling away. So number 5 is do not wear flashy stuff. Now, once again though, this depends on where you're at. There's safe and dangerous places all over the world, and pretty much in every country you're going to find both safe and dangerous cities and areas within cities. So that just kind of comes with the territory, and learning about where you're going is going to be the best to mitigate it. And then number 2 from that is then you're going to be able to know, hey, should I wear this, nicer, flashier outfit tonight, or should I maybe save that for, another location where I'm not going to attract extra attention? Save the flashy stuff for those nights where everyone's in flashy stuff, and it's kind of just that country or that city's specific area where you're not going to be some specific target. But if you're standing out, that's going to be when you could cause yourself a problem, because people might think, hey, this person looks really flashy, they must have a lot of money, they must not know their surroundings because nobody else is in flashy clothes in this area. All right, number 6. Hola, que paso? Me llamo Mac. Hallo, wie geht's? Ich heiße Mac. Bonjour, je m'appelle Mac. Nomac. Skål. Nastrovia. Prost. As you can see, I'm shouting out a bunch of random different words and greetings in a few different languages, because number 6 is to learn a little bit about the language of the place that you are visiting. I think that is key for a couple different reasons. The biggest thing is safety. If your phone dies or whatever happens, you may need to be able to communicate with someone for directions, or at least just navigate yourself to somewhere safe where you can speak mainly English. So knowing a few words is going to get you one step closer. And the second side of it is people really appreciate that you're taking the time to try and learn their language. And when people hear you speaking a little bit of their language, they're going to be less likely to target you, not completely less, but a little bit less maybe to target you for someone they maybe wanted to rob, if that's the situation that was about to happen, because they might think, hey, maybe this person does know a little bit more about my country, maybe they understand the language that I'm speaking because I just heard a few words from them. Alright guys, and so number 7 is having an itinerary reference, or something that you can have printed out in a safe place, because this should be treated like a confidential document, just like your passport or your credit cards. The reason being is this itinerary reference form that I'm talking about for number 7 is basically a printout you can have with maybe your address to your hostel on there, your flight times, your other schedules, or maybe addresses that you need to know. Whatever it might be, you should have some sort of quick reference guide, so if your phone gets lost or stolen, you can pull this out and at least still be able to navigate yourself back to where your hotel was and get yourself to safety. Whatever it might be, having one of these itinerary references can be super beneficial. One of those things you don't really think you need until you actually need it, but it's a great thing to have in your back pocket. I want to mention that in our course workbook that we're offering here, I'll put a link in the description below, we actually have a pre-created itinerary reference template for you in episode 6 where we talk about creating this. So definitely check out the course workbook if you guys haven't yet. There's super helpful information that the course workbook covers that takes it a step further than what's covered in the video series. Alright guys, and number 8 on the list is avoid using unsecured public Wi-Fi. That's an easy way for people to go ahead and target you and scam you. The key is to try and stick to password protected networks. Now, I know that's not always possible to only use password protected networks. There's going to be some point or another where you're going to need to use unsecured networks. And that brings me into my 9th point, which is getting a VPN. Now, what is a VPN? A virtual private network. Now, some of you that are maybe in the corporate world or somewhere else in a job industry that requires you to use a computer and a VPN, it's very common because companies can be a huge target for hackers to try and hack into their systems and obviously, destroy their assets, steal their assets, whatever their intention is. Now, it's the same thing when you're out traveling the world. There are hackers out there in the world, and they are sitting at those coffee shops on the unsecured networks, and they are going after you. So setting yourself up with a VPN is just another one of those things like travel insurance where you don't really think anything about it, but the second something happens, you wish you would have had one. So guys, I'll put a link in the description below to a VPN company that I recommend. It is definitely a market leader for VPNs, and it's very affordable for you to get set up with one now. All right, moving into number 10 here. That is to watch your stuff. Now, this might be one of those things where you're like, okay, watching my stuff, that's the most obvious tip I've ever heard. Well, it is, but I think we have all run into a situation where we're distracted, where we're trying to get that great photo, where we see something like a whale jumping in the water and we're like, whoa, look at that, Like, we've all had those super distracted moments. And I would say this point's, once again, a little bit more focused towards those countries where robberies, thefts, petty thefts are a more common thing. But in those cases, people are going to be looking for you when you're distracted by something. Thieves are getting so good because at the end of the day, that's their profession. Now, obviously it's not morally right, but those people are out there and we need to mitigate the possibility that they're stealing our stuff. So how do we do that? We always are keeping an eye on our stuff. We're always making sure that we're aware of what's going on around us, or very quickly, you might have someone just come up to you right now and just snag something. And trust me, they are good at it. I can tell you a few different stories I've heard of. In Spain, they're really good. There is this person that I know that was standing on the corner and all of a sudden a moped comes flying by, and with that they cut the strap of her purse and grab it and keep driving. Insane. Like, it all happened so quickly she didn't even realize what happened. Another one also in Spain. I know a lot of Spain stories because I studied abroad here. The next story I want to mention here quickly is there was a guy in Spain who was in front of a bus basically trying to stop it, flag it down, and everyone inside the bus is looking like what's going on out there, and meanwhile that guy's buddy or criminal partner is in there robbing all of them. So the third story I want to tell you that I had also heard when I was in Spain, there was a gypsy lady who came up to this tourist. She threw her baby at the tourist and his reaction was basically to catch it. And so she runs away, there's this baby in his hands, and then all of a sudden a bunch of gypsy kids come and take everything out of his pockets, and he can't let go of this baby because obviously it's a newborn baby and he's a human, he's not going to drop it. And then the gypsy lady comes, runs back a little bit later, grabs the baby and takes off. There are so many creative ways that people are robbing people. I'm sure there are millions of stories. If you have some crazy stories you know of, I would love to hear them. Comment them below, and I'm sure all the other people watching this video would also like to hear them. Anyways, enough about that. Let's move on to point number 11. When you're in your hostel or hotel, wherever you're at, I would always recommend to lock up your stuff and don't leave anything out that's going to attract specific attention. If you have really nice camera gear or laptops or a bunch of cash, put it in a safe spot so it doesn't lead to temptation. The reality is people living in other places around the world may look at you as someone that has a lot of money because you're traveling. I mean, that comes with the territory. And for you as a traveler, what you need to do is to not give them that temptation. Keep it hidden. Keep it locked up inside of your suitcase if possible. Those types of things are going to make sure that you don't run into issues where you have stuff stolen. Additionally, if you're in a hostel where you have a huge shared space and you can't lock anything up, I would recommend getting a padlock so you can go ahead and padlock your either suitcase, you can padlock your lockers. A lot of hostels will have a specific area where you can go ahead and lock up your valuables, so I would recommend to do that as well. All right guys, and number 12, uh-oh, what's going on? Yep, you see that? That is a money belt. Yep. So I recommend you to get a money belt for places that are going to be higher risk. Places like Spain, places like South America. For quite a few of those places, you're going to find it more common where there are petty thefts, sometimes robberies, and having a wallet that's harder for thieves to get to is only going to save you. Now that being said, your wallet is just your wallet. That's replaceable. Your life is not. So I would definitely recommend, if you're ever in a situation where you're in any sort of danger, give them the wallet, give it up. I don't recommend fighting them. That's just dangerous. It's not worth it. I'll put a link in the description below for you guys to check out some of the money wallets that I recommend. They're absolutely fantastic, and I always bring them with me because it's not something I wear every day, but when I do end up in those countries where I can feel that it's a bit more dangerous to be walking around with my wallet just in my pocket normally, that is when I'm glad that I have my hidden money wallet. So on the topic of wallets, now one other strategy I recommend to have, and once again this is for those places where theft is a more common thing, have a decoy wallet. Thieves are going to be targeting you in various areas. They're going to see you maybe reach into your pocket. They're going to see you as maybe someone they want to target. Maybe they're going to find you around the corner. One way that, once again, I don't want you to ever put yourself in any sort of risk. I just wanted to maybe save you to lose a couple bucks if you're not in a dangerous situation. But having a decoy wallet is a great option. So what that means is have an extra wallet, you buy a cheap one, put maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 US dollars, so whatever that's equivalent to in your home country. Have a maybe burner card in there as well. Maybe have a burner identification card, just something that makes it seem like a legit wallet. And so if something does happen, that's the wallet they grab from you. That's the one they take from you. And that way you don't have to run into a fight. You don't have to try and hold your wallet and not give it to them and risk yourself any trouble. That's one way to just be able to be like, here, take my wallet. And then you have one card in there, call that bank, cancel that card, or if it's not even a real card, perfect. But just keep in mind though, I would try and make that decoy wallet look as real as possible because thieves are smart. They might watch you in that coffee shop. Did you take that wallet out? Or do you have that wallet in your back pocket, but now you're reaching into another spot? They are watching and they are good. So be smarter than them and let them take your decoy wallet. And so guys, number 14 is staying alert of your surroundings and not looking lost. It is so easy to grab your phone and be looking up in the air like, where do I go? What do I do? But you are a target then. What I would recommend to do instead of, trying to find your way right there in the middle of the road or on the sidewalk, I would find a bench, sit down, make it look like you're texting, and then when you are looking up, just don't be so obvious about it. Just look like you're people watching. Because if you do look really lost in some of these areas where it's a bit more dangerous, people are gonna see you as a target. They're gonna know you're not from around here. They're gonna know, hey, maybe I should follow this person. They might have money or whatever it might be. So try not to look lost. Try and blend in as much as possible, even when you are lost. All right, guys, number 15 is be careful when you're going out at night and getting intoxicated. We all like to party, or at least most of us do. I for sure do. But one thing you need to remember is to not take it too far where you're going to be a very vulnerable target. Now, with that in mind, that's easier said than done. Obviously, everyone's gonna say don't drink too much. There are cases when that does happen. So my rule of thumb is to bring out as few items as possible. I'll maybe bring out one card, some cash that I need for the night, and then a lot of the times I'll bring out my phone as well. But other than that, I'll leave everything else at home, so in the worst case that something does happen, I won't lose everything that I have. I think in reality, no matter where you are in the world, thieves like to target drunk people. They're easy to target. Especially in Spain. My cousin recently had his phone stolen at the club. Well, when you're at the club, you're getting danced on, you're intoxicated. When people rub against you, it's normal because, right, you're at the club. But the reality is sometimes that rub against you might be someone snagging your stuff. So watch it and be careful. Number 16 is what my dad likes to call leave breadcrumbs. Leave breadcrumbs? I'm not supposed to clean up after myself? No. That's not what I mean. What I mean by breadcrumbs is leave yourself a trail, whether it's with friends or family, sending them your itinerary, letting them know where you're gonna be for the weekend, letting them know where you're staying. What I do is I share my location with my dad and a few close friends. That way they can always check up on me where I'm at. And for those of you where it's not your thing to give someone else your location, well, at least leave a trusted person in your life with some sort of information on where you're at. Because if something happens to you, you get hurt or injured somewhere, or you get robbed or something worse happens, people will at least know where to start looking for you rather than starting from ground zero and not knowing where you are, where you were at last, where you were gonna go next, etc., etc. So follow that and it'll put you in a much safer place. Number 17 is look up the common tourist scams. People have gotten very good at scamming people. Now, this is different from robbing someone or snagging their wallet, it's scamming them. My brother, myself, and my cousin, we were in India in 2014. We were waiting for a train, and a guy came up to us and told us the train was canceled. It wasn't happening anymore. And long story short was, he convinced us to come with him, and it sounds way sketchier than it was. He orchestrated in a way where it seemed very legit. He seemed like a genuine person trying to help us. He basically lured us to come back to his shop. He wanted to charge us $600 to get to the same destination that would have only cost us like $2 per person. So we were like, whoa, no way, like we can't afford this. We were all in our teens or early 20s. We didn't have the money to do that. And so we're like, no, sorry, we can't. And we ended up taking a bus. We looked it up later and it's a very common tourist trap that they will go ahead and just scam people. And if we would have looked that up in advance, like what are the common scams in Delhi? It was one of the first things that came up. And had we known that, we probably would have stayed a couple steps ahead of that. So definitely look up those scams. Number 18 is leaving valuables sitting on the table when you're at a restaurant or somewhere in public. I've been in some countries like in Spain, this has happened, in Uruguay, in Argentina, where locals have come up to me and said, hey man, do not put your phone on the table. You're going to get it stolen. In Uruguay, in a certain market, there are kids that will come in there and they'll be very distracting, and meanwhile, while they're doing that, they'll be grabbing people's stuff off the tables. In Barcelona, someone will make a distraction out on the street. And then you look over and all of a sudden you look back and your phone's gone. You have no clue where to even start looking because that person grabbed it so quickly and then just kind of blended in with the other people. So do not leave your phone on the table. It's so normal these days. I mean, I do it all the time. Whenever I'm out with friends or family, I just have my phone sitting on the table. But not all countries you can do that. Just try and get yourself in the habit of not doing that and you'll be happy you did, because losing your phone is like the worst feeling ever. Number 19 is an option I wanted to mention because for some people it might really give them that peace of mind. I personally don't use this, but I'm not necessarily opposed to it and I would actually consider it as well, especially if you're a solo traveler. And what that is a tracking device. So I'll put a link in the description below to one that I have seen as a very popular and successful one. But what it basically is it's simply just a tracking device, and if someone has that information, they can go ahead and track wherever you are in the world. Now, think about how valuable that could be if you were in a much higher risk country, ones where kidnappings happen and those types of things. I don't know if you're going to be traveling to those places, but even if you're not traveling to one of those places, maybe you're going out into more of a remote area by yourself. That's another way where if something happened to you, someone could go ahead and track that information directly back to where you are. It's one of those safety things where I would recommend checking it out. There is like a small monthly subscription fee once you buy it off Amazon, but sometimes those costs are so minimal in comparison to the value that a product like that will give you. All right guys, and number 20, I guess that's 10 plus 10, right? Number 20 is to go ahead and utilize your local resources to learn a little bit more about that area. Being informed is the most important thing you can do when you're going to a place. Now, I've spent some time in other videos telling you how you can be informed, and I'm not going to cover it again here. But what I will tell you is you can use your local resources, whether it's talking to your hostel or hotel or Airbnb host. Ask them, where's a risky area around here? What are the scams that happened? What are these types of things that maybe you don't want to do the research on, but you can leverage that local expertise to give you those answers. All right guys, and that wraps up your 20 tips to keep yourself a bit safer while you're traveling around the world. There are so many more tips. If you know of any tips, please put them in the comments below. It'll be really helpful for any other viewers who are checking out this video and are looking for more safety tips. What I can tell you is traveling is amazing, but with everything in the world, there's downfalls, and sometimes things do happen, but it's your job to make sure you can mitigate those types of risks. Don't put yourself out there to find yourself robbed if you're looking like a tourist. Don't put yourself out there to not look after your valuables. Whatever it might be that we covered in this video, take that extra step. You'll be happy you did. It's almost like an insurance for yourself. All right guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm really excited for episode 16 because we're gonna be talking about a bunch of travel pitfalls. So these aren't necessarily safety tips, but they're more learnings that I've had throughout my times traveling that I'm really excited to share with you guys. I think you'll find them very, very helpful, and some of them are pretty crazy and interesting to kind of think about. So definitely check out that video. If you don't want to miss that video or other upcoming videos, hit that subscribe button below if you haven't yet. And if you like this video, guys, I would love it if you leave a thumbs up. It'll help others like you find this video as well. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.